I'm offering you a chance to finish what you started.
Loss of engagement.
Flexible.
Welcome to the Terminal List World. You're here doing Dark Wolf, a series that's set years before the first season that we saw a couple of years ago. When you were first both approached for this project, what did that conversation look like? Luke, we can start with you.
I went through the audition process. I actually auditioned for Rolfe Hastings, and I got a call back, and I was in Fiji surfing. And my brother was there, Chris. I'm like, dude, you gotta help me. We've got a call back. So we did a call back in a Fijian bungalow, covered in salt and. Did
Chris read with
sunburn.
you?
Chris was reading. Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
Very cool.
And from that, they were like, "All right, cool. So we'll test. It's down to a few guys." And I didn't know who it was at the time, but. Went through the test, and then I was actually in South Africa when they said, "Look, you haven't got the role because he's way better." And the character's 6'5", and you're 5'9", so that works.
That was the only factor, though. Acting-wise, he nailed it. It was like, he's just taller.
He's taller. Well, yeah, look, they came back and they were like, "There's this other role. It's smaller, but it's pivotal." And I was like, get fucked.
No, I want it.
There's no way. So I read the book, and Jules Landry is this a smaller character in the book, but definitely pivotal. And if you're a fan of the book, there's a very succinct, definite journey that he ends on, and then. During that process of the audition stuff, Taylor was there and Chris Pratt was reading as well, and then the discussions with Max and Jared all just led me to this place of, if I don't do this, I'm the world's biggest idiot, right? The ego wants the bigger role, but this role was just so attractive because he's dark, he's flawed. He's incredibly capable in a military sense, in a planning sense, but he's a manipulator as well. He's a sociopath, and all those things are exciting. They're the things that I don't get to do because I'm not that way inclined as a human being. And so this is the game. It's the insanity of being able to, explore emotions and situations that we don't get to explore, for a number of reasons, Jules Landry is morally questionable,
And I have to say as well, watching him do Landry is a pure joy because as a fan of the books, I saw Landry in my head of what he is. And then
were you a fan before you took on the role?
Yeah, so I'd read, I'd listened to the audiobook of Savage Son, which is the third book, and then I went back over to the first two and read Terminal List and then True Believer. And Landry comes in True Believer, and for me, he was a real iconic character because he's so well described and meets an interesting end in that book. But what Luke has brought to him has lifted him so far past that. He's captured all the things that are in the book, but then also brought in this brilliant humor and humility to Landry, and a sense of the way that Luke plays him. There's this part where you absolutely love Landry, but then question so many of the things he does from a moral standpoint. But you're like, why am I so confused? I should want to tear this guy's throat out, but for some reason I'm also rooting for him. And that's something that he brought to that role, and I was like, man, he's just so good. So it was a joy to watch him.
Yeah, it's the Hannibal Lecter thing, right? You want to be able to like him, right? Hannibal Lecter is probably the best example. The Joker as well. Joaquin did such an epic job of being likable and terrible at the same time, terrifying. But Matt Damon always said the right role always goes to the right guy, and fucking who else could play Rolfe has
Your brother?
I think
No way.
a lot of it deals with cultivating some empathy, right? Like, you know, it's not just necessarily the character being someone to root for, but you can kind of relate. You can understand what they're going through in that moment. You can understand the circumstances they've put themselves in. The Terminal List as a franchise has been like prided on authenticity, making sure the stories being told are authentic to the people who have lived some of these similar stories in real life. So a bit of a twofold question for you both here. Tom, we can start with you. When it came to developing both the physical standpoint and the emotional gravity that you're bringing to this role, what did that training look like? Obviously, there's a physical training that you go through, but that emotional standpoint, what do you do to prepare to get in the headspace of a character like Rolfe, who's going through all these things, who's taking falls for his brothers, who's, you know, in those moments of big standoff moments and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, the physical standpoint, you know, we're fortunate, you know, as actors, like we take our physicality seriously for the kind of roles that we do, right? So like the physicality is a smaller side of it in terms of like staying in shape to be able to take on the role. But the mental standpoint is a much bigger piece of this, because, and a huge point of that comes from talking to our Navy SEAL advisors, you know, Jared Shaw, Ray Mendoza. I became very good friends with Chris Alvarez, and there was a bunch of other SEALs that came on, and having those guys on set and getting to talk to them and literally them being so open and generous with their time and their stories. And I remember saying to LV, Chris Alvarez, I was like, you know, do you mind me asking you all these questions? Do you mind me, you know, delving into your past? He was like, I'm an open book, man. Like, ask me whatever you want. And he's like, it's not every guy will, but he goes, for me, whatever you want to know, I'm open book. So we spent so much time chatting to each other about all his experiences, you know, and what it takes to get to a certain point. And I asked him about times in the series when I had to get to certain points as Rolfe, what that would mean for him or for someone like who's been operating as a SEAL. So taking on all those, the mental side of it and how to operate and how to turn a dial from light wolf to dark wolf, right? That's something that I'll never forget, that they did that for me and, you know, and got me into that mindset to be able to tap into that.
And Luke, getting into Jules' mindset.
Yeah, look, you know, it's a lot of kind of experimentation. You know, I think the danger is judging this character. You know, like, it doesn't matter whether I would do this in real life. This is what the character does, right? So what I think helps that is you kind of have to be fearless, but in order to be fearless, you have to be surrounded by people who allow you the space. People who create an environment where you are pushing the boundary of, you know, we're breaking the boundary of what's acceptable. We're not pushing it at all. We're doing things that shouldn't be done. And you have to be very careful. You have to be very, very open. You have to be very comfortable. Shiraz was an absolute legend. And me as a human, you know, all of my empathy is towards her and making sure she's comfortable with what we're doing. And then you try to separate that, and you have to still go to these places. But my point is, it only happens in wonderful safe spaces, and this show has created that for everybody. We have had so many times where, without the crew and the directors, you know, the camera guys being part of the family, you don't have the comfort to push those emotional boundaries, I think.
Yeah, there's a real authentic sense of camaraderie with people we see on screen, and obviously it must go to the relationship you have with your creatives behind the scenes.
Yeah, I've never seen. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. Right?
No,
you know,
it's quite unique.
It's really a brotherhood. It's in terms of the team and the collaborative process. It's second to none.
Yeah. To talk about your characters a little bit specifically here, I have my preconceived notions after watching the first couple episodes of this series about who Rolfe is, about who Jules is. What's one thing about your characters that you think is going to surprise audiences? Tom, we can start with you.
That's a great question. What would surprise them?
For
Because
me,
based on the first series, you know, the original Terminalist, like we know he exists, so there is that anticipation of understanding, coloring him in.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think it really depends on whether you've read the books or not. You know, because if you haven't read the books, then he's just a name. You're like, who is this guy that's given Reese his boat and, you know, like just set him up to, and then also we know that Ben Edwards has said to him, I don't trust that guy, or something like that. He says something like, I don't trust him, or like, I don't know why you trust that guy. So if that's all audiences have seen, if we're just talking about the ones from the TV show and not the books, then they may be surprised to see how loyal he is, you know, and also see that he's, in this time frame, best buds with Ben. You know, he's blood brothers to James Reese, but he's also one of Ben's best friends as well. And they go in this journey together, you know. So then I think you go, oh wow, how badly does this have to go for Ben to say that about him in the end of season 1?
I think people will be surprised by the, how do you say it?
Mitulivu, yeah, the calm.
Which is the calm one. And it's what I love seeing on screen. And I've seen it performance-wise, but what Tom nails is that unflinching stoicness in the heat of battle. You watch him on the 50 cal, and he's just, it's the Terminator. It's like,
exactly,
right? Yeah, but underneath, obviously, the raging torrent.
Yeah, the years of watching Terminator 2 Judgment Day really come out with that. Yeah,
It's a good one to take inspiration from. That's for
it
sure.
certainly is.
You guys are no strangers to working in big ensemble TV productions, live action, obviously with Umbrella Academy and Westworld. How does the tone of something like Dark Wolf compare to those big budget, big action projects?
Well, I mean, Umbrella Academy. I mean, it was a huge production as well, but very different. You know, fantasy show, superheroes and stuff. So there's high stakes, but it's in a fantasy world, right? And also, we had a lot of artistic license to, excuse the technical term, goof around on that show. So yeah, it was a very different kind of environment. Whereas this, the stakes are so much higher, you know, because we're representing a community, we're representing the SEALs and what they stand for, and you know what is going to look real for them when they watch it as well. So yeah, it's a very different sense of stakes for you as an actor and what you're putting on screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Westworld, and I don't want to take anything away from that experience because it was pivotal for me in my life, and I still have many friends from that show. But it's a big machine, and it's shooting on film, and so it felt like a very different process, and it also felt like we were shooting 4 different shows, timelines. Wrapping your head around the meaning of anything in that show was quite an ordeal. Whereas this feels, you know, I keep using this word, family and brotherhood, that it feels like coming home. It just feels, yeah, it's so relaxing to be on this set, you know. And despite everything that's going on, all the chaos of whatever we're doing, and 50 cal and 500 rounds, and you're just like, God, this place is good.
Yeah, you kind of sometimes there's days when like you know something's being shot. And you kind of go, oh, am I going to set today to hang out with the guys? Because you want to be around that for that scene being shot or something. Like I wanted to come in, like there's scenes that we're doing in True Believer, the second season of Terminalist right now. There was days where we were shooting in one studio, one sound stage, and these boys were over in the other sound stage, and we're like, oh, let's pop over and see the other boys in the other one to see how that's going. You know, there's a sense of really kind of wanting to support everyone in what they're doing and see and get excited about other people's storylines and stuff. You know, it's a really great environment.
Yeah, I kind of want to expand on that a little bit more because obviously the camaraderie, the brotherhood, it's so important for that to be sold on screen, because when we first meet some of these characters, there's an implied backstory there. There's an implied sense of they've been on several missions together. This is my found family at this point. What was it like to develop that with guys like Chris, Taylor, the rest of your ensemble? I feel like you kind of alluded to it there, wanting to go to each other's sound stages and all that, but were there any specific moments offset where you were able to really build that brotherhood?
So many.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Budapest was, yeah. We did. Right, again, I've never been part of something where all of the cast and crew hang out
Ryan
so
and
much
Kenny and like all
after
the other,
after hours, and we would go karting, paddle tennis, and we visited every restaurant I think in Budapest.
We definitely completed Budapest on restaurants, and ate all of their food. There's a famine now in Budapest because of those, I think.
But I think that's what develops those those little interstitial bits that are between all of the speaking. It's those moments you're able to spend with these people outside, and you start to develop a shorthand, and that's what comes across as chemistry, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it's a trust thing, right? Once you trust each other as people, and you have like deep conversations about each other's personal lives, and like there's times where me and you hung out and we just talk about lives of being, what it is to be a dad for each of us. We both got kids, and talking about our lives with our families and stuff and what that means. And it just creates an unspoken bond on screen that's what builds chemistry. It's trust. It's like knowing that other person, and allowing your fellow actor and friends to do that. That's a special thing, and it doesn't always happen. That's what we can't stress enough. It's like it's quite unique to have like such a large group build that. It's
also such a pivotal part of that military world, right? This is everything they do is to protect their teammate. And it feels like that on set as well, right? We're all protecting each other in one way or another.
Yeah.
Even if you're trying to kill the other person, right?
Yeah, I've done enough of these interview rooms where I can tell if people don't hang out beyond a setting like this. And it's very clear that like this cast, this group of guys, like you guys all very clearly really enjoy working on this project, and there's a sense of responsibility I feel like you all feel to your characters and to the people you're serving, the audience specifically. I was talking with Jared earlier, and he was talking about, it doesn't matter if 10 million people see this show, as long as the former Navy SEALs who have lived these experiences get something out of it in a positive experience. That is what means the most, and I feel like you all retain that responsibility. I did want to bring that back up from earlier. You both said that the physicality is something you're not a stranger to. You both work very physical roles. It gives you good foundation for the combat training you have to go through for something like this. But still, there is that additional combat training. Could you each kind of talk about your experience, manning some of those cars, learning how to use certain guns, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, a big part of it for me was actually fitting in the Humvees. They were so tight. But no, the physical side of it, our training...
Doorways as well.
Doorways are a problem, especially when you have the helmets on with the nods. You're just like, doing every doorway. You know about this, you're talking about it. Yeah. But I mean, that all comes down to Jared and Ray, where we spent hours and hours just doing drills, clearing rooms, how to clear a room, the amount of different ways you have to enter a doorway, so you are covering all angles, but also protecting your fellow man. The biggest understanding of the physical side of it was how you enter spaces knowing that you have covered the guy beside you. The difference between the SEALs and other special operations forces is it's much less of a solo operation. It's all about how you operate with your brothers. And Ray Mendoza once said, he was like, I don't give a fuck about myself. I don't care about myself. I care about him. So as long as I'm covering him and he's operating the same way as me, then we have everything covered. And as you enter a room, having that in your mindset and knowing that the guy next to you, so when I was doing drills with Kitch or Chris, we all knew where each other were at any given moment. And then you see that, especially in episode 1 when we're working in the SEAL team still, you see how we work. And I think we see it again when we do the tunnel sequence, which is all done in kind of like one-shot sequence. We all had to operate in a very specific way to make sure there's angles covered, from a military standpoint.
Yeah, and it's so specific in like finger placement, how you're pulling your, like elbows in. There's one where I have to lean against the side of the car, and Jared's like, this is how you do it. You put your fingers there, and this goes there. And I was lucky because I went through a whole bunch of training on a film that I did with some Australian commandos, different, but they all kind of cross operational paths, I guess, a little bit, and sort of train each other. And it's so cool because we get to do all the close quarters combat, all the clearing of those rooms, and exactly that mentality of trusting that guy that he's already looked in that spot while you're moving in.
Yeah.
That's always a big one to remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the training never ended. We're always day in, day out on this show, adjusting, improving, trying to make it more authentic, and that's why Jared is just the best of the best. And he will call for another take if he sees there's one step wrong,
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. If you finish a take, you're like, that was a good one. That I think it was good. Yeah, I think we nailed that. And then you see Jared like walking in with like his purpose. You're like, we're going again. Definitely going again. We're going again.
But when they give you the nod,
you're like, you love it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of care with the show. I will have to wrap there, but guys, thank you so much for very thorough answers. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Cheers.